A remarkable caretaker. Narrated story. A desperate situation. In the affluent suburb of Northwood Terrace, in the stately mansion of the Remington family, lived two young twins, Eleanor and Sebastian. Their parents, Charles and Victoria Remington, were global entrepreneurs and philanthropists, constantly jetting between continents. With a packed schedule and a string of nannies who quit one after another, the children's lives fell into a careless routine, despite the wealth and grandeur surrounding them. Every week brought a new nanny. Some departed due to the twins' mischief, others were intimidated by the cold, impersonal household. Charles and Victoria, exhausted by the turnover, were on the brink of giving up. Their home felt increasingly like a revolving door of caregivers, none who stayed or truly cared. Then came Amara Bishop. Arriving with grace. Amara was hired by a placement agency and arrived dressed modestly, holding only a simple tote bag. Her gown was modest, her tone soft and confident, but what struck the Remingtons most was her quiet presence and gentle authority. She seemed older beyond her years, wise in ways the children's former caretakers were not. The first day in Northwood Terrace was calm yet curious. Amara's introduction was unassuming. She brought a home-cooked lunch from her own kitchen, something no previous nanny had done. She met Eleanor and Sebastian with warmth and patience, offering them freshly baked muffins rather than store-bought snacks. For the first time, the twins seemed immediately at ease. Connection and curiosity. Victoria watched from the study window as Amara led Eleanor into the expansive garden. The girl, who usually refused to interact, held Amara's hand as they examined flowers and chased butterflies. Sebastian, the more mischievous twin, observed from afar, drawn to Amara's composure. During their first lunch alone, Charles expressed his skepticism. She's different. But will she last? Victoria merely smiled. Something about her demeanor says she might. A test of patience. That afternoon, a storm rolled in. The twins behaved as usual, demanding and chaotic. Toys flew, tantrums erupted, and the house echoed with shouts. The previous nannies would have crumbled or fled. But Amara simply knelt. She whispered to them that they were upset and loved, explaining that it was okay to feel strong emotions. She offered them a choice: we can build a pillow fort or read by the window. Slowly, Eleanor calmed, and Sebastian's chest heaved with quiet relief. Soon, soft laughter replaced crying. That night, as Charles and Victoria returned home early, they found a peaceful scene. The twins curled up in their homemade fort, reading fairy tales by lantern light, and Amara beside them, smiling. Consistent care and creative play. With each passing week, Amara became more than a caretaker. She grew into the children's confidant and guide. She taught them to plant vegetables in the garden, showing them how a tiny seed could flourish with care, a lesson for life, she told them. She encouraged Sebastian's passion for building with wooden blocks, and nurtured Eleanor's interest in drawing through art projects by the rose bushes. Amara also made time for elaborate storytelling sessions. She spun tales of courageous explorers and enchanted forests, weaving in lessons of empathy, courage, and curiosity. The twins listened raptly, eyes sparkling. Earning trust, one day at a time. Weeks turned into months. The Remington household, once sterile and rushed, now filled with laughter, whispers, and genuine moments. Amara's influence penetrated not only the children's behavior, but also the parents' hearts. Victoria, once business-focused and distant from motherhood, found herself drawn into weekend baking sessions. Charles, every morning, lingered longer, absorbing the warmth of family he had long neglected. One afternoon, Charles discovered Eleanor baking muffins with Amara. He paused, smiling. A quiet crisis. Word came that Amara had received news of her father's illness back in her hometown of Meadowbrook, an hour's drive away. She confided in Victoria and Charles, tears glistening. He needs me, but I can't leave the children either. Victoria and Charles exchanged understanding looks. They had grown to depend on Amara as much as the children had. Charles offered to drive her, urging, "Go be with your father." Victoria pressed a small envelope into her hand. Amara tried to refuse, but the parents insisted, offering help, meals, and time to be with family. Temporary farewell, lasting bond. Amara left to care for her father for a week. The house felt emptier. At bedtime, the twins waited near the porch for her return, their smiles dimmed without her soft tales and warmth. But on the seventh evening, Amara stood at the doorstep with warmed bread and fresh flowers from their garden. The twins surged forward, hugging her knees, chattering in excitement. Charles and Victoria watched, their hearts full. The house felt whole again. The transformation confirmed. Months later, the Remingtons hosted a small gathering for close friends. The twins greeted guests politely, Eleanor offering tea with poised hands, Sebastian charming the visitors with neat block towers. Afterwards, Charles leaned in close. "Look at them," he murmured. "We've never had this before." Throughout it all, Amara stood humbly in the background, watching with satisfaction and a faint smile. Epilogue: Unseen Threads of Love. Later, when asked what made Amara exceptional, Charles replied softly, "She saw our children, and us, not as tasks or a job, but as people." Victoria added, "She stayed because she cared. And cared because she saw love beyond wealth." Eleanor and Sebastian, in their young voices, would say, "Amara taught us how to feel safe." Years later, when the twins were grown and building families of their own, Amara's quiet wisdom remained their guiding touchstone, a reminder that true care is rare, and when found, transforms lives.